All right, let's dive into one of the biggest puzzles in modern nutrition. We're talking about a real conflict between two very popular, very powerful strategies, both of which promise to help us live healthier, longer lives.
So here's the big question we're all trying to answer. To live a healthier, longer life, where should you put your focus? Is it all about what you're putting on your plate, like making sure you get enough protein? Or is it really about when you eat, using the clock to manage your meals? Let's break this whole thing down.
Now, to really get a handle on this paradox, we have to start by looking at a huge challenge that comes with aging. You see, the battle for a healthy, long life, well, it's often won or lost in our muscles.
There's a clinical term for this. It's called sarcopenia. And listen, this is way more than just about looking fit. It's a fundamental decline in your body's engine. This slow and steady loss of muscle, of strength, of endurance, it's at the root of so many of the challenges we face as we get older.
This really shows the core of the problem perfectly. Think of it like a nutritional squeeze. On one side, you have all these reasons why older adults tend to eat less protein. Things like a smaller appetite or other medical issues. But on the other side, their bodies are actually crying out for more protein. A big reason for this is something called anabolic resistance, which just means their muscles get less efficient at using the protein they get. And that creates a really dangerous gap. And the consequences of that gap are, frankly, pretty serious. We're not talking about a small dietary hiccup here. This is directly linked to frailty, a higher risk of falls, and ultimately, a loss of independence. So yeah, the stakes are incredibly high.
So that brings us to our first potential solution. This strategy tackles the problem head-on by focusing on the what. It makes a powerful case for seriously upping our protein intake.
And here's where it gets really crucial. The standard recommendation, the RDA that most of us hear about, is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But, and this is a big but, a major European expert group on nutrition says, hold on. For healthy, older adults, they recommend 1.0 to 1.2 grams. That's a huge increase.
And get this, for older adults who are dealing with an illness or an injury, that recommendation shoots up even higher to as much as 1.5 grams per kilogram. That is nearly 50% more than the standard RDA. It's a clear signal from experts that when it comes to aging, the old rules just might not apply.
So, why all the fuss about extra protein? Well, it helps the body fight back against that anabolic resistance we talked about, giving muscles the extra building blocks they need. It fuels the body during illness, helps you hold on to strength, and, this is key, when you pair it with exercise, it can actually help prevent or even reverse frailty. Okay, so that's a really compelling argument for focusing on what you eat. But now let's flip the coin and explore the other side of the paradox. This is the strategy that argues when you eat could be just as important. It's all about the power of the clock. This strategy is called time-restricted eating, or TRE. The idea is pretty simple. You don't necessarily have to count calories, but you do have to watch the clock. You compress all your meals into a specific window each day, say maybe 8 or 10 hours. Now, the science behind why TRE might work is centered on a process called metabolic switching. It's a fundamental shift in how your body actually generates energy. Here's how it works. When you eat, your body runs on glucose from that food. Simple enough. But after you've been fasting for a while, you burn through those glucose stores. And that's when, bam, the switch flips. Your body stops looking for sugar and starts tapping into your fat reserves, turning that fat into an alternative fuel called ketones. This metabolic switch is where many of TRE's benefits are thought to come from. And the potential benefits are pretty impressive. Research has linked this switch to better insulin sensitivity, lower blood pressure, and less oxidative stress. What's also fascinating is that without even trying, people who practice TRE often just naturally cut their calorie intake by about 20%, simply because there's less time in the day to eat. So now you see the problem. We have two powerful, science-backed strategies. One says eat more protein. The other says eat less often in a tight window. And right there, that's the paradox. This is where the diets collide.
In one corner, you've got this definitive statement from the ESPN expert group. They basically conclude that for older adults, more protein is essential to fight muscle loss. End of story.
But then, in the other corner, you have this commentary from the NIH waving a huge red flag. They warn that restricting when you can eat, the very foundation of TRE, could actually be harmful for the exact same group of people because it makes getting all that needed protein so much harder.
And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict. It feels like a total catch-22, doesn't it? Do you protect your muscles at the potential expense of your metabolism, or do you improve your metabolism but risk losing muscle? I mean, do you really have to choose?
Well, the latest thinking suggests that maybe you don't. The resolution to this paradox isn't about picking a winner. It's about creating a smarter, more personalized playbook for yourself.
Here's the key takeaway. These two strategies don't have to be mutually exclusive. The real goal isn't to pick a side, but to figure out how to get enough protein within whatever eating window you choose. It's totally possible, it just requires a little bit of planning.
So here's what that personal playbook might look like. First, you have to know your number, that 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram protein target. Then you pick an eating window that's actually realistic. Trying to cram all that protein into a tiny 4-hour window might be nearly impossible, but an 8 or 10-hour window, much more doable. Then you want to spread that protein out over at least 2 or 3 meals to help your body use it well. And finally, and this is non-negotiable, you have to combine this with resistance exercise to give those muscles a reason to grow.
And just when you think you've got it figured out, here's one final layer of nuance. A fascinating study suggests that even the type of protein might matter differently depending on your age. For people under 65, a diet high in animal protein was linked to increased health risks. But for those over 65, that same diet was associated with a decrease in those risks, likely because it's so darn effective at fighting muscle loss. It's a powerful reminder of just how personal nutrition needs to be.
Which brings us to our final thought. Maybe this whole debate, what versus when, is the wrong way to frame the question. As the science gets more and more sophisticated, it seems the goal isn't to find the one perfect diet for everyone. It's about understanding the principles well enough so you can build a diet that's perfect for you, for right now.